Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hockey fans around the world, welcome back to the Party Package. My name is Owen. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the savior of entertainment and the prophet of the Calgary Flames season preview. Now, last time we looked at the frustrating to watch Buffalo Sabres in their endless drought of losing and pain and suffering. Today, we are talking about a team that has had brushes of success throughout the last few years, but has never come far enough to do anything really noteworthy. They've won divisions, and that's about it. They've gotten really nowhere in the playoffs. They've got nothing to show for everything that they've done, and this year was a year where things might finally be shaken up. The Flames have always been a team, to me, that I never believed in them. I never thought that the Flames had it what it takes to be winners. Something about Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Lindholm being their top line just never rubbed me the right way. Then they added Tkachuk, and now Toffoli, and Gaudreau last year, and Coleman. It's all well and good, right? Last year they won the Pacific Division, and they made it to the second round, losing to the Oilers in the second. And this team loses Johnny Hockey in free agency and Matthew Tkachuk doesn't want to re-sign with them, and he gets traded away for Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, that's his name, and also some Cole Schwint, I think his name is. Now, I was going to do a whole skit about that, but I didn't do it because whatever. So, this team, this is very interesting. A lot of Calgary fans probably were like, oh, no, Tkachuk, he's like the future, he's like the guy. And then they saw the trade that they got, and they're probably like, whoa, yes! But the thing is that the Florida Panthers trade, it's a very interesting trade for them to make. But really, in the end, it makes sense. You get Matthew Tkachuk, who's not that Huberdeau's old, but you get Tkachuk, who's younger than Huberdeau, who's getting the same amount of points, and, well, roughly around the same amount of points, on a team that's probably on a lower bar than the Florida Panthers. And you also get rid of Weegar. Those two guys' contracts end next season. They're going to have to figure out a way to re-sign them, and that's going to be a lot of money that the Florida Panthers probably don't have right now and probably won't have next season. So they get rid of them to get Matthew Tkachuk, and all they have to do is replace Mackenzie Weegar. Now, the Flames, the reason why I've never believed in the Flames is that Johnny Hockey finally last year was amazing, Lindholm was amazing, and so was Tkachuk. Now, Gaudreau's gone, and Tkachuk is gone, and now you're all left with Lindholm. And the problem with Lindholm is I think he's the perfect goal scorer type of guy to put between a superstar in Gaudreau and a superstar in Tkachuk. Lindholm himself is not a superstar player in the NHL. He's a perfect guy to put along with like a Sidney Crosby or something, someone to put with another, like a Patrick Kane. He would be a perfect deal with like a Patrick Kane or a Panarin, a guy that he needs that better player to elevate his game. He's not going to elevate his game on his own. And they have given him a pretty solid player in Huberdeau, a good playmaker that can generate offense. But the problem is that even though they replaced Tkachuk with Huberdeau, they haven't replaced Johnny Hockey at all. Well, I guess it depends how you think of Huberdeau. He could be the Johnny Hockey. But you lose two star players, you only replaced one, you're still missing the other one. And right now, the Flames on offense isn't the worst. I think this team makes it into the playoffs, especially in the Pacific Division. But I've written some numbers here. You might not be able to read what it says here, but this number 40, here's the number 30, and this is 30 to 40. This team is made up of a bunch of bottom second-line players. Tyler Toffoli, everyone remembers when he lit up when he left the Kings and went to Vancouver, and then he went to Montreal. He scores goals, but really he's only generating 40 points a season. Not a lot to put on a top line, especially not to replace Johnny Hockey. So you look in your lineup, who could you replace him with? Toffoli, he's a good pick, but he only gets 40 points a season. Coleman only has gotten 30 to I think he only hit 40 once, or maybe he hasn't gotten there. And Backlund has been getting around 30 to 45 points each season. And now you've got like a Mangiapane, a young guy that could maybe do something, but he hasn't really proven himself. And then the rest of the lineup, Dylan Dubé has the potential to be one of those bright, like a Connor Garland type, where he's got that tenacity and he's got that fight and drive, but he doesn't really have it all the time lighting up the lamp. If he does, that'd be a perfect guy to put up there. Huberdeau feeding Dubé and Lindholm would be great. But he hasn't really been able to show that he can do that. And he couldn't do that with Gaudreau and Tkachuk. And now he's only got Lindholm left and Huberdeau. Whatever. So on offense, this team is decent enough at least to play in the Pacific Division. But they're worse than last year, 100%. On defense, though, obviously they add in Mackenzie Weegar. They already had Hannafin and Anderson. Now they have Weegar. They also have Valimaki, the young defenseman. Zadorov, the big giant, and Shillington. They got good defense. This top three defense there, solid. Zadorov's a giant guy. He does his job well. And then Valimaki and Shillington's a good bottom to fill out the lineup defense type players. Then also you've got Monahan and Tanev. Monahan's currently injured. Tanev is scratched. You can fit those guys in. Now, Monahan is, once again, the most overpaid player in the league because he literally does nothing. There's some players that you say are overpaid, like Marc-Edouard Vlasic, but at least they can play hockey. Sean Monahan can't play hockey, which is a big reason why the Flames have fizzled out over the last few years, is that one of their main guys a few years ago literally can't play hockey anymore. And then on goaltending, Markstrom, solid goaltender. I think he didn't win the Vezina. Shesterkin did, but he was up there. He could have won it. So does this team with this lineup make the playoffs? I think they probably do. This team, especially in the Pacific, I see the Oilers winning number 1. This team could probably win number 2 or 3. Now, I thought they were going to be bottom of the barrel. I said in the Anaheim Ducks video, I thought this team was going to be bottom of the Pacific because of Tkachuk and Gaudreau being lost. But with Huberdeau and Weegar, I definitely see them being able to get into that top 3 at least. I see it going Edmonton, Calgary, and probably the Kings or the Ducks or the Knights switching in there. I think Calgary's better than the Knights and the Kings and the Ducks. So they probably squeeze one of those 3 teams out, and one of them fits in that 3rd spot, and then the other one can fight for a 4th wild card. So does this team make it to the playoffs? I think so. Do they win anything in the playoffs? I think in the Pacific Division, I think they're better than the Golden Knights. Depends, because it feels like if Jack Eichel actually does light up and they stay healthy, then the Knights could knock them out in the first round if they face them. But I think the Flames could maybe get past the first, but definitely no farther than the second. And that's even a stretch to say if they get past the first. But this is a team that has hope. This team has hope to win something. They could go on a run. But the problem with me is that you have names like Coleman and Toffoli, where we see those guys and we're like, yeah, those guys are good players because all we hear is good things about them over the last few years. But really, if you take a look at their points, Coleman's only got, I think his career high is actually only 37 points. That's not good. That is not good. And Backlund's is only 30 to 47. That is not good enough for a superstar team. This team's problems revolve around the fact that they lost their 2 top guys. Of course, they have Huberdeau, who's a top 5 points maker in the NHL every year. But the problem is that they only have Huberdeau now. Huberdeau, he doesn't have the Gaudreau. You replaced one of them and lost the other. And this team is really missing a solid, I don't know what the right word to call it. They're missing this one solid, like a Tkachuk. I think Matthew Tkachuk is probably the perfect player for this team, and this is the team that they got rid of. They need a hard-fighting player that's physical, that can fight, that can play through the punches. A playoff player. That I think of them like a playoff player, like a Sidney Crosby, like Patrick Kane. These guys that can fight in the playoffs and are consistent. This team right here is not going to be consistently amazing, especially down here. Rooney and Ruzicka. Those, and Doyer. I don't even know who that is. And Lucic, and Milan Lucic. When is he finally gonna leave? This bottom 6 here, other than Dylan Dubé, is dreadful. Mangiapane can be good, but I feel like he's overall always been is underwhelming. This team has gotten rid of players like Sam Bennett last year. They've lost Kachuk and they lost Goudreau. Yet they're still fighting to stay in a playoff hunt. And if you look at this team, I don't see a better team than they had last year. This team is not as good as the one they had last year or the year before that when they had Giordano on defense. And they seem to slowly be getting worse and worse on their lineup, yet they're still fighting to try to win, which is what happens to teams when they try to win right now and they get screwed over. Just look at the San Jose Sharks, and now their future's kind of compromised. They could have had Tim Stützle, now they don't. The Flames, I feel like, are just trying to buy their time and stay somewhat consistent because they're lucky they're in the Pacific. If they weren't, this team is going to have a tough time. But they're going to make it to the playoffs, and they'll say, well, we made it to the playoffs. We did good enough. But next year, is at the end of it, do I see Huberdeau or Weegar signing with this team? Probably not. I see, especially with this team probably going to be going downhill from where they are right now, Huberdeau's going to want to go try to win a cup somewhere. Maybe he goes back to Florida. Who knows? Maybe this is a big long-term plan. But Huberdeau's going to want to win something within the next few years. Weegar's going to want to win something. And it's going to be tough for them to keep those guys. And then what happens? Next year, they don't have... Next year, at the end of next year, they lose Huberdeau and Weegar. And then they've lost completely what could build their team to any sort of success. So this team is going to I don't know. This is going to be an interesting team to watch. Their top player this season, I've thought about this. I'm going to do it. Their top player of each team I'm going to go through. Top player of this season is going to be Huberdeau, of course. Someone's going to beat Huberdeau on any team probably. Huberdeau's completely underrated. I mean, I don't know if underrated is the right word, but he's not recognized as much as he should for being a top player. But this team, let's say they get to the trade deadline, they're like, okay, we're going to try to go in for it. Now, it's always hard to tell who's going to be free at the trade deadline, who's going to be needed to trade away. But if this team could get like two solid players to fill in, like to Foley role and Mangiapane, so they could fit Toffoli like down here and fit. Let's just, in my NHL game, I picked up Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl, two guys that won't get traded away from the Sharks, but let's just give an idea. That would be pretty good to fill in these top two roles here. You put Tomas Hertl here, Timo Meier there, then you've got a solid top line. You have a little bit of the second line leaking into the third, and then the fourth line you could figure out some players to fit in like some hard fighting players. And then on defense, they're solid. Offense, they just need some more killer instinct. That's what I say is wrong with this team, is that this team doesn't have a killer instinct right now. This is a bunch of, Coleman, Backlund, Huberdeau. It's just a lot of playmakers, I'd say. It's got a lot of playmakers, not a lot of killers on this team. And that's their biggest problem, is they don't have a lot of just that to get. They don't have any serious, like, potent players, I'd call them. Potent player. Huberdeau's amazing. But other than him, there's no real, like snakes on this team. So I see them making the playoffs, not doing very far. Huberdeau's going to be their best player. They're going to be a buyer at the trade deadline. They're going to try to pick someone up. I would say they need to fit in two players if they can get some huge player in there. But who do you trade away? Trade away your first-round draft picks is going to lead down the trail that I was just talking about. You trade away your first-round draft picks to pick people in, but your team's already at the back end of their potential dynasty, and they're just going to lose those players and screw up their future. So if I was them, I would just stick with this team, not trade for anything, just try to see if this team can do good, unless they're on fire, of course, or they're on flames, and see where this team goes, and then maybe hold on to Huberdeau or Weegar next season. If they can't, try to sign some big free agents. Maybe next season they go after like a Nathan McKinnon. If McKinnon becomes a free agent, dump all your money into him and then sign him to the team. Then you got your killer instinct player. So that's all I have to really say about the Calgary Flames in this video. So I guess if you enjoyed watching this one, please pick up your free subscription out of the below. That's the red button that says subscribe. Make sure you hit the little bell that pops up next to it. If you liked it, leave a like, but don't leave a dislike. But you can go down below to the comment section. Leave any thoughts, opinions, rants, tangents, or other sorts of words that you'd like to leave behind so I have some feedbacks and reviews to fix what I can do. And tell me, do you think the Flames have a chance this playoffs? And if not, what do you think they should do? Thank you for watching, and until next time, I have been Owen, the Party Jordan. Ta-ta for now.